Research team make a thrilling discovery as rocket launch causes flashing lights phenomena. These strange lights kept going on and fading off, and the team didn't know what to make of this strange discovery. They started off by giving their new coworker, David Mason, who had just arrived at the ranch, a hearty welcome. They reasoned that given his position as a researcher with the UAP, he would be the most qualified individual to assist them in carrying out a fresh experiment during the midnight hours that they had been intending to carry out. A piece of equipment that David Mason referred to as a triple-spectrum light-wave transmitter was in reality something that Mason had conceptualized and created himself. It is designed to be able to project lasers with infrared and ultraviolet wavelengths, both of which are outside the range of the human eye's ability to see. In addition to that, it is capable of producing a laser beam that is completely visible to the naked eye, which further detected how rocket launch causes flashing light phenomena. They wanted to use it to broadcast the mysterious 1.6 gigahertz transmission signal that they had previously captured on the ranch through all three lasers that were pointing directly up at the triangle in an effort to ascertain whether or not this would cause the blob-like phenomenon to resurface. They had previously recorded the signal on the ranch. They arrived at the conclusion that rocket surgery would be the most suitable approach, in order to determine whether or not doing so will also assist in initiating the event. Launch rockets and mortars, both of which are forms of high-powered fireworks, right up through the triangle at the same time. They had begun this discussion with the hope that they would finally be able to gain an answer to the question they had been asking about the nature of this creature. They began by broadcasting, at a frequency of 1.6, the signal that they had recorded the previous year up into the triangle. This activity had been completed in the year before. When the rocket's ignition mechanism all of a sudden started acting erratically, it took everyone by surprise. The starter clicked on in just the way that one may have anticipated it would. On the other hand, the rocket was unable to take off for some inexplicable reason that no one could identify. Due to the fact that they were transmitting at 1.6 gigahertz and the location of the ranch was a ranch, it was impossible to determine whether or not they had just experienced a malfunction in their equipment or whether or not some kind of phenomenon was actually taking place. Because of this, the only option open to them was to give it another shot after they had exhausted all other possibilities. They observed a light in the distance that was violet in color after it had climbed on an ascending trajectory, east of the current area where they are standing right now. It appeared as though there was a bluish-black or violet-colored light outside, a short way to the southwest of this place, if that is of any assistance. They fired another mortar shell in the direction of the goal. After then, a second violet flare lit up the sky to their south, but this time it was much nearer to them, a short way to the southwest of this place, if that is of any assistance. They were unable to determine whether what they were seeing was a reaction to the rocket launch or whether there was actually human involvement in what they were watching, since they were unable to differentiate between the two. It was a very strong indication that someone was keeping an eye on them and possibly intervening with them on a personal level in some way. They needed to determine whether or not there were individuals down below, or whether or not this was a genuine reaction to the rocket. They reasoned that the only way to go back up was to roll down through the thick forest and approach it from the opposite direction. This was the only way they could think of doing it. They had no other option than to climb back up in this manner. It has been claimed that they are once again able to see the purple flash, but this time they are looking specifically to the south. They are unsure as to whether or not there are intruders in that region, or whether the noise is being caused by anything else. They had both looked about, but neither of them could recall seeing anything that would explain the bluish-violet glow that was present. Neither of them could remember seeing anything that might explain the glow. The team's night vision allowed them to make out something that was directly over the location where one of the team members was standing. Around 10 degrees above the ground, it began to disintegrate into smaller pieces in the sky. It flickered quite swiftly and intermittently. They looked all over the area that they were exploring, but they were unable to find any traces of activity there. As a result of the disappearance of the light that had been observed by a member of the team, together with the UAP that had been positioned directly above him. The decision to attempt to launch a second rocket at the same time proved to be a very intelligent one. All of them continued to be in a state of suspense as they monitored the sky around the south field for any further signs of whatever it was that Thomas had seen, as well as the UAP that was tracking his movements from above him. Despite all of their efforts, they had not yet been successful in locating anything in the South Tower. In addition to this, the characteristics that they possessed did not exhibit any new characteristics in the spectrum. It would appear as though every time they discovered an unusual trait in someone or something and started focused on that quality, the quality disappeared all of a sudden. This occurred regardless of whether the quality was found in someone or something. It seems like a very decent match for the needs when you put it like that. On Skinwalker Ranch, there had never been a night quite like that one before in the entire course of the ranch's existence. It appeared as though they had been successful in bringing about the occurrence of certain strange incidents, but it appeared as though they had done it on purpose. Witnesses at Skinwalker Ranch stated that they saw flashing lights at the same time that the rocket was being launched. It is a distinct possibility that the weather conditions or other phenomena in the natural world were responsible for these lights. On the other hand, taking into account the extensive list of unexplained occurrences that have taken place at the ranch, it is not completely out of the question that there was some other factor that was involved that cannot be explained. The crew of the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch has stated that they have witnessed a range of unexplainable occurrences while filming on the property that is featured in the show. These occurrences include the appearance of strange lights in the sky, the mutilation of animals for unknown reasons, and even the observation of species that defy description. The organization is dedicated to applying scientific methodologies in order to explore and understand these phenomena, despite the fact that it is difficult to define with perfect certainty what causes them. It is possible that in the case that the rocket was launched, the group utilized additional pieces of technology, such as drones or electromagnetic field detectors, in order to explore and determine the source of the flashing lights. They may have also conducted interviews with others who claim to have witnessed the occurrence, and they may have compared the statements of those witnesses to accounts of sightings of similar phenomena originating from other regions of the world. Researchers have uncovered data that suggested that the money pit could hold a significant amount of silver. They also found a cement region that had evidence of gold and other metals, leading them to believe that osmium, the world's rarest metal, was hidden somewhere in the murky depths of Oak Island. Located in the Atlantic Ocean, Oak Island is a Canadian island in Nova Scotia. Be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications for more shocking discoveries. For all intents and purposes, Marty and Rick Legina have spent their entire lives searching for riches on Oak Island and deciphering its mysteries. They have spent a lot of time and effort trying to figure out the island's mysteries without making much progress, but their most recent treasure quest seems to have paid off. The Legina brothers have made several significant discoveries on Oak Island in recent years, and their work may have opened the way to the island's lost wealth, as some have speculated. The mystery surrounding the Skinwalker property has not been resolved, and it is very likely that the group will continue to encounter strange and puzzling happenings while they investigate the site. Regardless of whether these phenomena are the result of natural or supernatural forces, the dedication of the team to scientific research and discovery is certain to shed new light on this strange and fascinating area. Researchers just discovered what seems to be a strange force. Could this be an alien? Click on the next post to find out.